Hi, this is Dwayne, and I'd like to ask you a question. Do you know the 5 most important chords in any key? If not, you can learn them right now. It's not difficult at all. It's very, very simple to learn the 5 most used chords in any key. They're most important because they're most used. It's not that any chord couldn't be used, it can be, but for the most part, those are the 5 most used chords. And there's 3 that are used way, way more than any others. For example, if you're on the key of C, based on the scale of C, and that's what it means to be playing the key of C, you're basing your playing on the scale of C, which has no sharps or flats. The most important chord, of course, is the C chord. Just play every other scale note up from C, and you've got the C chord. That's also known as the 1 chord because that's the first degree of the scale. The next most important chord is the 5 chord. Why is it called a 5 chord? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's the 5th note of the scale. The next most important chord is the 4 chord. And there are literally thousands and thousands of songs based on just 1, 4, and 5, some variety of those 3 chords. I could play a whole bunch of songs right now. Silent Night, Amazing Grace, On Top of Old Smoky, on and on and on and on and on. Okay, all kinds of songs that you can play with just 3 chords. But if you add 2 more, then you add thousands of more chords. And those 2 chords, in addition to 1, 4, and 5, are the 2 chord and then the 6 chord. And that's the order in which they appear. In other words, the most likely chord is always the 1 chord. The next most likely chord in a key is the 5 chord. The next most likely chord is the 4 chord. The next most likely chord is the 2 chord. And the next most likely chord is the 6 chord. And if you know those 5 chords in the key of C or in any key, you've got a huge jump on other people because you know what the most likely chords are that will occur in that key. Okay, now we looked at them in the key of C, so let's look at some other key. Let's take the key of F, for example. The key of F is based on the scale of F, which goes like that. I won't go over why that's called a F scale, except it confirms that music theory calls for a certain formula that forms a major scale and therefore a key. And I won't go into that. You probably know that anyway. Anyway, this is a F scale. And if you take the first note of the F scale, that's the 1 chord. And if you take the 5th note of the F scale, that's the 5 chord. And the 4th note of the scale is the 4 chord. What would the 2 chord be? It would be G, wouldn't it? Some form of G. What would the 6 chord be? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it's very easy. You could quickly memorize. If you like to play in the key of F, you can quickly memorize what those 5 most likely chords are and the order in which they're most likely to occur. Excuse me, please. Let's take another chord now. Let's take another key. The key of G, based on the scale of G. What would the 1 chord be? Of course, the G chord. What would the 5 chord be? The D chord. What would the 4 chord be? What would the 2 chord be? What would the 6 chord be? So quickly you can establish the most important chords in any key. There's 12 possible major keys you can play in, but you don't have to know them all. There's 12 possible minor keys you can play in, but you don't need to know them all, of course. Just get acquainted with the ones you play in the most, okay? And by knowing the likelihood of what chords occur in that key, you've done yourself a huge, huge favor. So that's it for today. If you enjoy these little videos, then come on over to playpiano.com and sign up for our free series of newsletters and videos and so on. I think you'll like it. So thanks, and we'll see you tomorrow.